This video takes you from absolute ground zero to using Excel with confidence. Accordingly, in just a few minutes, you'll know how to navigate in Excel, organize, format, and analyze data, as well as how to use formulas, giving you a solid skill to accomplish common Excel tasks, which are all explained and demonstrated step by step. Before we even open Excel, let's define it. What is Excel? Excel is one of the most widely used Microsoft tools for recording, organizing, and analyzing information. That information can be anything, which we'll see in a second. For now, think of it this way. If you want to collect, organize, and make sense of something, chances are you can do it in Excel. How? That is what you're about to see. To start from scratch, let's open a new Excel file. The most common way to open a new Excel is by clicking on the Windows Start button, which opens the Start menu you see here. Find the Excel icon and click on it. If you don't see it here, you can type the word Excel in one of the search bars, which brings the new Excel icon up top. Go ahead and click on it. That opens this interface where you can choose to open either a new blank Excel or one of these ready-made templates or an existing Excel file from down here. Since we are starting from scratch, let's open a new blank Excel. So, click on the blank workbook button. That gives you this new blank workbook. A workbook is the full Excel file where you will store all your work, and it has at least one worksheet, commonly called a sheet. A sheet is the main workspace in Excel, taking most of the central display area, where you enter and organize information. The name of a sheet is displayed at the bottom in a small tab, which, in this case, is Sheet 1. You can create a new sheet in a workbook by simply clicking on this Add icon. Notice, as I clicked on the Add Sheet button, this new sheet was immediately created and named Sheet 2. You can create as many sheets as you want. To go back to Sheet 1, click on the Sheet 1 tab. By default, Excel names worksheets as Sheet 1, Sheet 2, and so on. You can change any of those display names by double-clicking on the name, and then typing any name you like. Think of sheets as pages in a giant digital notebook, and think of a workbook as the notebook itself. The first thing you notice when you look at an Excel sheet is the vertical and horizontal grid lines. These grid lines form columns and rows. Each column is labeled with a letter, like column A, column B, column C, and so on. And each row is labeled with a number, like row 1, row 2, row 3, and so on. As these columns and rows intersect each other, they form many small boxes. These small boxes are called cells. Each cell gets its name from the intersecting column and row. For example, the name of this cell is C4 because it is in column C and row 4. Cells are where we enter data, such as numbers or texts, which we'll see in a minute. Another important term to know here is range. A range of cells is a group of cells, whether it is just 2 cells, an entire row, an entire column, or any group of cells. A range of cells is represented by the first and the last cells separated by a colon. For example, in this range of cells, the first cell is the topmost cell, which is C2, and the last cell is the one at the very bottom, which is C8. So, the name or reference of this entire range, including all cells in between, is C2, C8. If it is a horizontal range, like this one for example, the first cell here is the leftmost cell, which is C2, and the last cell is F2. So, the name or reference of this range is C2, F2. What if the range covers multiple rows and columns? Like this one here for example. The first cell is the top left cell, which in this case is C2, and the last cell is the bottom right cell, which in this case is F8. So, the name of this range is C2, F8. When working with cells, ranges, columns, and rows, you often need to select them first. What does selecting mean? Selecting a part of the worksheet means preparing that part for action. Whether that part is a single cell, a range of cells, an entire row, or an entire column. Shortly, you will see what type of actions or work you do after selecting them. But for now, let's see how you select or make a selection. To select a single cell, all you have to do is just click on the cell. Excel shows you a visibly bold border around the cell to confirm that the cell is now selected. To select an entire column, click on the header of the column on top. The column is now highlighted, showing that it is now selected. To select multiple columns, first click and hold on the first column. Then, drag your mouse over to the last column you want to select. The columns are now highlighted, showing that they are selected. Similarly, you can select an entire row by clicking the row header here on the left. Dragging down or up selects multiple rows. To select any range of cells, for example, B3 to D10, first, click on the first cell, which is B3, and then drag your mouse through the last cell, which is D10. Sometimes, though rarely, you may need to select multiple separate ranges of cells at the same time, like these two areas, for example. To select both ranges, first, select the first range normally, and then press the Control key on your keyboard to select the other range. Like so. Great. We will come back to the worksheet in a minute. Immediately above the worksheet, you find the name box on the left, and the formula bar taking most of the horizontal space. The name box tells you which cell in the worksheet is currently selected, and the formula bar shows you what is inside that cell. Let's see what that looks like. Currently, the selected cell is D4, as you can see. So, the name box is currently showing us that cell reference D4. On the other hand, the formula bar is currently showing an empty space, because the selected cell is empty. If I make the selected cell hold something, like the number 100, the formula bar now shows that 100. If I make the selected cell empty again, the formula bar becomes empty as well. It works the other way too. That is, if you enter anything in the formula bar, the same thing will be entered in the selected cell. And if you delete it from the formula bar, it is deleted from the selected cell as well. So, again, the formula bar always shows you what is inside the selected cell. The formula bar has another important purpose, which you will see when we get to formulas in a minute. Now, let's see and use the ribbon. The ribbon is located on top of the worksheet. Think of the ribbon as your toolbox, organized in different containers called tabs. Tabs are what you see at the top of the ribbon. Clicking on a tab opens it and displays the tools contained in the tab. Let's now add some data in the worksheet and utilize the most common tools in the ribbon. The first question you may be asking is, how do we enter data into Excel? The primary and common method of entering data in Excel is simply typing directly inside cells. To type inside a cell, first click on the cell to select it, or use the arrow keys on your keyboard to navigate to the cell you want to type in. Then, start typing. After you're done typing in a cell, you can leave or deselect the cell by pressing Enter on your keyboard, or simply by clicking a different cell with your mouse. If you want to edit or change what is inside a cell without deleting everything, double-click the cell. That will put the cell in edit mode. Then, you can modify or edit whatever you want. To easily delete everything inside a cell, you can click on it just once and then press the Delete button on your keyboard. You may also be asking, why is an Excel worksheet split into columns, rows, and cells? The answer to that is because the primary purpose of Excel is to organize information in a tabular format. A tabular format means a list of things in rows and columns. You can display anything in a tabular format. For example, you can display your family members or friends, or a list of employees and their salaries, and so on, in a tabular format. Let's say you want to show employees of a company and their salaries in a tabular format. You can start at any point in the worksheet, but it is generally recommended to start from top left. For example, you can display the names of the employees in the first column and their salaries in the second column. So, first, label or name the columns. That means, in this case, we are naming the first column employee name and the second column salary. Then, type the data in the rows and cells below. In the employee name column, type the name of the first employee, for example, Brittany James, and type Brittany's salary in the salary column. And next, the second employee, that is, Stephen Robert, and Stephen's salary in the salary column. Let's enter a few more data. I'll speed it up to save time. Now, we just entered a simple data to start with. This employee data doesn't look clean yet. Let's fix that with formatting. Formatting means changing the look and feel without changing the contents or the data itself. For example, some of the texts here are cut off, as the columns are smaller or narrower than the contents. There are several ways to adjust the width of a column. The easiest way is to click on the very top left corner of the worksheet to select the entire sheet. Then, double-click on any of the edges of the columns in the top. That automatically adjusts the widths of all the columns selected, so that all data, texts, and numbers perfectly fit inside all cells, as you can see here. To adjust the width of just one column, you can drag its edge until you are satisfied with how it looks. You can also add a new column at any point. To easily add a new column, select where you want to insert the new column and right-click. Then, select Insert. A new column is now added. Let's say you want to use this new column to show years of service of the employees. For example, Brittany's years of service is 9 years. Stephen's is 4 years, and so on. Now, when you want to delete a column, you can simply do that by selecting the column at the top and right-click. Then, click the Delete option in the context menu. The column is now gone. Let's undo that. To undo whatever you did in Excel, press Ctrl-Z on your keyboard or click the Undo button, like any Microsoft application. Instead of deleting this column, if you want to just hide it, select the column by clicking on top and right-click on it. Then click Hide. To unhide or show the column again, select Adjacent Columns. Right-click and click Unhide. Now you can see the column again. In the same way, you can insert new rows, hide and unhide, or delete the rows. To improve the format even better, you can change the size, color, or other styles of the data using tools in the ribbon. The tools are very simple to use. When you point to any tool, a tooltip box appears to tell you what the tool is and what it does. Next, let's see how you can change number formats. Now, if you look at the numbers in the salary column, they are simple numbers with no decimal points or thousand separator commas. In business and professional settings, numbers representing monetary values should include 2 decimal places and thousand separator commas. To do that, select the cells. Then, go to the number group in the ribbon and click on the Increase Decimal Points button here. To add a thousand separator, click on this comma icon. Now, the numbers in the salary column look a lot better. For even more number formatting options, you can expand the number group by clicking on the More Options arrow here, or right-click on the cells and select the Format Cells option. But Excel already shows you the most commonly used number formatting tools here in the ribbon, so you don't need more options for most Excel tasks. Another common task in Excel is that you will frequently need to quickly find a piece of data, especially when you have a bigger and wider data than what we have here. For example, here, let's say you want to find an employee named Greg. To do that quickly, press Ctrl-F on your keyboard, or alternatively, go to the ribbon and expand the Find and Select button. Then, click on the Find option. In the dialog box that opens, type the keyword you are looking for, which in this case is Greg. Then, press Enter on your keyboard, or click on Find Next here. That'll find the cell and select it, as you can see. If you want to replace it, for example with a different name, use the Replace option, especially to replace the same piece of data in many places with just one click. Another very useful and common tool in the Home tab is conditional formatting. For example, if you want to visually see salaries more than $90,000, select the cells and click on Conditional Formatting. Then choose an option. These options use different formatting styles. The most common, and of course, practically the most useful formatting style is the top one here. You have a lot of options to choose from. For our example, we choose the greater than option. In the dialog box that opens, type 90,000. You can then just click OK. But you can pick a different style or choose a custom format to make it look however you like. For this example, let's apply the default style. So hit OK. Now, all cells with more than 90,000 are highlighted for you. To remove the conditional formatting, select the cells and click the Conditional Formatting button. Point to Clear Rules and click on Clear Rules from selected cells. That clears the conditional formatting applied. All right, now, time to see how Excel formulas work. To use Excel formulas efficiently, let's look at Excel-specific rules and basic math you should remember. You can write a formula in any cell you choose. You always start an Excel formula with an equals sign. And remember these arithmetic and comparison operators. A few of these operator signs are different from what you are familiar with in mathematics. You will see examples in a minute, so that you know how these operators are used in Excel. To make calculations easier, Excel has a lot of ready-made formulas called functions. There are hundreds of functions in Excel, but you don't have to know all of them. And the truth is that most regular Excel users use no more than 10 to 15 functions throughout their career. If you know the general rules related to functions, it is easy to use any function when you need them. You can find the full list of Excel functions under the Formula tab in the Function Library group. They are grouped in different categories. In just a minute, you will see some practice examples, so you know how you can use formulas and specifically functions. But now let's see the general rules you should know to efficiently use functions. First, all functions start with the name of the function and then parentheses. You provide any inputs inside the parentheses. Inputs inside the parentheses are commonly called arguments. If there is more than one argument, they are separated by commas. An argument can be a number, a text, or a cell reference, or a range of cells, and so on, depending on what you want to do with the function. That'll all be clear when we start using functions in just a minute. Before practicing with functions and formulas, let's first see how you feed or enter values into a formula. For example, you can write a simple formula to add two numbers, like this. Formulas start with an equals sign, so equals, and then the first number, let's say one of these salaries, 85,000, plus the next number, let's take the second one here, 79,000. Press Enter to exit the formula. You get the sum of the two numbers. All right. But in Excel, we rarely type numbers directly into formulas. Instead, we generally use cell references. So, to add the two numbers after the equals sign, type the cell reference or name of the first number, which is C2. Even better, instead of typing, you can just select the cell. And Excel automatically enters the cell reference for you, like this. Plus, select the second cell. Press Enter. You get the same total number. But the main benefit of using cell references in formulas is not only convenience and ease, but it is also essential for consistent accuracy. For example, if you change a cell value here, the calculated total updates itself automatically. You can make this even easier using a function. For example, if we want to know the total salaries paid to employees here, we can use a function called sum, and its format is the name of the function, which is sum, and then parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we enter the numbers we want to add. Here, we want to add the salaries listed here in this range of cells. So one way to do that is add each salary separated by commas. But that takes space and time, especially if you have a long list of numbers to add. Instead of entering them one by one, click inside the parentheses and select the whole range. Like so. Notice, when I selected the range of cells, Excel automatically entered that range for me here. That is C2, C11. Press Enter on your keyboard to exit the formula view and reveal the total salary. In the same way, if you want to know the highest salary here, you can use a function called max. So, as always, an equals sign, then the name of the function, which is max. Then parentheses. Inside the parentheses, enter the salaries range as before. You now know the highest salary paid. Similarly, you can calculate the minimum salary, average, and so on. Next, let's see and use another most commonly used function, the if function. The if function gives you one value if a condition is true, or another value if that condition is false. To see how that works, let's say the employer decided to reward each employee with a loyalty bonus based on their years of service. So, if an employee has worked for 5 or more years, they get a loyalty bonus of 10% of their salary. If they have worked for less than 5 years, they get a bonus of 5% of their salary. You can use the if function to take care of that. Let's go to the first employee and write the formula here in this cell. Once we select the cell, we can finish the formula in the formula bar. Because the formula bar gives you more space to work than the cell itself. As you saw earlier, formulas start with an equal sign. Then, the name of a function, which in this case is if, followed by parentheses. For if functions, the first input, or argument, we enter in the parentheses is a condition or criteria. The condition or criteria, in this case, is years of service is greater than 5, comma. Then, we enter the second input, which is what happens if the condition or criteria is true, and that is 10% of salary. So, we calculate that by selecting the salary cell and multiply. Asterisk is the multiplication operator in Excel. We multiply the salary by 10%. You can write 10% as 0.1 or simply 10%. Then a comma, and enter the third input, which is what happens if the condition or criteria is false, and that is 5% of salary. So, we again select the salary cell and multiply it by 5%. You can write 5% as 0.05 or simply 5%. That is it. Just to reiterate, this if function first looks at the first argument, which is a condition or criteria. If the condition is true, it executes the second argument. That means it calculates and gives us 10% of salary. If the condition is false, it jumps to the third argument and executes it. That is, it calculates and gives us 5% of salary. Press Enter. We now know how much bonus Brittany is getting. Now, instead of typing the formula again for each of the other employees, point to the bottom right corner of this first calculated cell until you see this plus or cross sign, and double-click or drag it all the way to the last employee line. Excel automatically reproduces the formula for all the employees. Great. That was the simple and famous if function. You can use it in any context where different outcomes are expected, depending on a criteria. You can format this range the same way we formatted the salary column, using the tools in the ribbon. Also, in Excel, you can move around data by copying or cutting, or simply moving the data around. If you want to move a range of cells to a new location inside a worksheet, select the range and point to the edge of the range until you see the Move cross icon, and click and hold your mouse. Then, drag your mouse to the new location, like that. Before we wrap up, I want to recommend another Excel video for you. It's called Pivot Table, Excel's top data tool. It's under 9 minutes and walks you through the core of Excel-based data analysis, making a perfect follow-up to what you just learned. You should see a link to that video right here on this screen. But if not, no worries. Just head over to the channel and look for Pivot Table, Excel's top data tool. Alright, we've reached the finish line. And here's your prize. You can now start using Excel with confidence. If you have any questions, comments, or run into anything unclear while using Excel, just drop them below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching, and take care.